Chance encounters, Warren Hayes checked his watch. 19 minutes until he could reasonably leave this hospital fundraiser without his PR team having a meltdown. The grand ballroom of the Peninsula Hotel sparkled with champagne flutes and diamonds. A sea of Chicago's elite pattering about giving back while networking furiously. "Mr. Hayes, your donation has single-handedly funded our new pediatric oncology wing," gushed the hospital director, a man whose name Warren had already forgotten. "Would you like to say a few words?" Warren offered his practiced smile. The work speaks for itself. At 38, he'd mastered the art of generous donations paired with minimal personal involvement. His technology investment firm had made him billions, and these appearances were simply part of the business ecosystem. He scanned the room, noting potential investors and competitors. His assistant Julian appeared at his elbow with a fresh whiskey. "Senator Branford is hoping for a moment of your time," Julian murmured. "And Ms. Rochester has asked if you'll be attending her gallery opening next weekend." Warren took a sip. "Schedule 15 minutes with the senator tomorrow. Decline the gallery with appropriate regrets." "Another admirer disappointed," Julian remarked. "She'll survive," Warren replied, his voice flat. He'd learned long ago that entanglements led to complications. His father had taught him that lesson, through 5 marriages and countless affairs that had torn apart their family repeatedly. A burst of genuine laughter cut through the polite murmuring of the crowd. Warren turned, his attention drawn to a small gathering near the silent auction. At its center stood a woman with copper-brown hair twisted into a simple updo, gesturing animatedly as she spoke. She wore a modest emerald dress that stood out among the designer gowns surrounding her, not because of extravagance but because of its unpretentious elegance. "Who is that?" Warren asked, surprising himself with the question. Julian followed his gaze. "I don't believe she's on our contact list, sir." The woman's audience dispersed, and she moved toward the auction tables, studying the items with actual interest rather than performative consideration. Without conscious decision, Warren found himself moving in her direction. She was examining a framed photograph of children in a hospital playroom when he approached. "Planning to bid?" he asked. She glanced up, and Warren was struck by eyes the color of amber honey. No flash of recognition crossed her face. "Actually, yes," she replied. "The photographer donated their time at our hospital. These are some of my patients." "You work at Northwestern Memorial?" "I'm a child life specialist in the pediatric ward," she explained, turning back to the photo. "I help children cope with hospitalization through play therapy. These kids were having a good day." Warren studied the photograph with new interest. "It's good work. The best work," she corrected with a small smile. "Though I imagine you rarely hear people say that at these events. Most conversations probably revolve around stock portfolios." "You don't approve of the wealthy?" "I don't judge people by their bank accounts," she said. "I judge them by how they treat others who can do nothing for them in return." She extended her hand. "Olivia Bennett." Warren took her hand, noting its warmth. "Warren Hayes." "The tech investor?" Her expression remained unchanged. "Your company donated tablets to our ward last year. The kids love them." Before Warren could respond, a waiter stumbled nearby, sending a tray of champagne glasses crashing to the floor. Guests scattered, expressions of disdain crossing their faces. Warren observed Olivia immediately kneel to help the mortified server, gathering glass shards despite her formal attire. No one else moved to assist. "It's fine. Accidents happen," she assured the young man. "Do you have a dustpan somewhere?" Warren stood frozen, watching this simple act of kindness that not a single other person in the room had offered. Something uncomfortable shifted in his chest, recognition of a quality so foreign to his world that it seemed almost from another planet. When Olivia stood, she caught him staring. "You might want to help instead of watching," she suggested, a challenge in her eyes. For the first time in years, Warren Hayes found himself without a calculated response. Walls of glass for 3 weeks following the hospital fundraiser, Warren found himself thinking of Olivia Bennett at unexpected moments. During board meetings, while reviewing investment portfolios, even as he piloted his private helicopter above Chicago's skyline, the woman who'd knelt to help a server while wearing evening wear had somehow lodged in his consciousness. "Julian, what do we know about Northwestern's Child Life program?" Warren asked one Thursday morning. His assistant's expression remained neutral, though his eyebrows lifted slightly. "Not much, sir. Would you like me to gather information?" "Yes. And find out if there are any upcoming fundraising initiatives for the pediatric ward." That afternoon, Julian placed a folder on Warren's desk. "They're actually struggling with budget cuts. The Child Life program might lose 2 specialists next quarter." Warren frowned. "Set up a meeting with their development director," which was how, 6 days later, Warren found himself touring Northwestern Memorial's pediatric floor, ostensibly to discuss a targeted donation. He told himself it was simple philanthropy. He almost believed it. "Mr. Hayes, we're thrilled you're considering supporting our program," the development director gushed as they walked the colorful hallways. "The timing couldn't be better with the—" Warren stopped abruptly. Through a playroom window, he spotted Olivia sitting cross-legged on the floor with a young boy attached to an IV pole. They were building an elaborate structure with magnetic tiles, her face animated as she spoke. "Is that Ms. Bennett?" Warren asked, interrupting whatever the director had been saying. "Yes. Olivia is one of our most dedicated specialists. The children adore her." Warren watched as Olivia helped the boy position a magnetic tile at a precarious angle, both of them celebrating when it held. Her genuine joy at this small victory seemed almost alien to Warren, whose achievements were measured in billions and acquisitions. "I'd like to speak with her about the program's needs," Warren said decisively. Minutes later, after the boy had been wheeled back to his room, Olivia looked up to find Warren standing in the playroom doorway. "Mr. Hayes," she said, surprise evident in her voice, "did you get lost on your way to the investment banking floor?" "Northwestern doesn't have an investment banking floor," he replied, his lips curving slightly. "A joke," she said, standing and brushing colorful lint from her simple slacks. "Those are allowed in pediatrics, hospital policy." Something about her directness continually knocked him off balance. "I'm considering a donation to your program." "How generous," she said, studying him. "Though I wonder what prompted your interest in child life services specifically." Warren maintained his composed expression. "I saw your work firsthand. It's impactful." "It's necessary," she corrected, echoing their first conversation. "These kids are fighting battles most adults couldn't face." Warren gestured to the magnetic tiles. "Like your young friend?" "Ethan," she supplied, a softness entering her expression. 7 years old, leukemia diagnosis, currently handling his 3rd round of chemo with more courage than most Fortune 500 CEOs I've met. The comment should have felt like a barb, but instead, Warren found himself asking, "How many Fortune 500 CEOs have you met?" "Enough at these fundraisers to know most wouldn't sit on a floor building towers when they're feeling terrible," she answered. "Ethan never complains. He just asks for more tiles." Over the next 2 weeks, Warren's donation evolved into a full endowment for the Child Life program, ensuring its continuation for years. He told his board it was strategic community investment. He didn't examine his true motivations too closely. He began finding reasons to visit Northwestern, check-ins on the endowment implementation, media opportunities that his PR team suddenly deemed essential. Each time he sought out Olivia, initiating conversations that started as professional but inevitably shifted to something more personal. "You grew up in Seattle?" she asked during one such conversation in the hospital cafe. "Technically Mercer Island," he replied, "though I haven't been back in years." "No family there?" Warren's expression closed slightly. "No family anywhere by choice." Olivia tilted her head. That sounds lonely. It's efficient, he countered. Entanglements complicate objectives. Is that from your company mission statement? She asked with a small smile. For some reason, Warren found himself continuing. My father collected wives and discarded them with equal enthusiasm. Family was just another transaction to him. Olivia was quiet for a moment. And you decided you'd be nothing like him by having no family at all? Warren felt as though she'd seen through walls he'd spent decades constructing. He checked his watch abruptly. I have a conference call. As he stood to leave, Olivia said, We're having a pajama party for the kids next Friday. They'd love to meet the man who saved their play program. I don't do pajama parties, Warren replied automatically. Of course not, Olivia said, her expression unreadable. That would require taking off the armor. Warren walked away, unsettled by how easily she seemed to see past his carefully constructed facade, and even more disturbed by how much a part of him wanted her to. Broken Patterns Warren's jet touched down at O'Hare at 2:18 a.m. The Tokyo negotiations had been brutal, 16-hour days securing a tech acquisition that would add billions to his company's valuation. He should have felt triumphant. Instead, exhaustion pressed on him like a physical weight as his driver navigated Chicago's empty streets. His phone buzzed with a text from Julian. Congratulations, sir. The board is ecstatic. Warren didn't respond. The victory felt hollow, as they increasingly did. He glanced at his calendar, a morning meeting with developers, lunch with potential investors, afternoon sessions with his executive team. The familiar pattern of his life stretched before him, endless and suddenly suffocating. Without conscious decision, he texted Julian, Clear tomorrow's schedule. It was the first time in 5 years he'd taken an unplanned day off. Morning found him walking along Lake Michigan, coffee in hand, watching the city awaken. His phone remained in his pocket, silenced. The freedom felt both foreign and necessary. Warren? He turned to find Olivia jogging toward him, hair pulled back, cheeks flushed from exercise. This is unexpected, she said, stopping beside him. I thought billionaires hibernated during daylight hours. Despite himself, Warren smiled. Only during quarterly tax seasons. A joke, she noted with mock surprise. Those are allowed outside pediatrics too, you know. I'm expanding my repertoire, he replied, then gestured to the path ahead. May I join you? They walked in comfortable silence until reaching a small park where Olivia stopped to stretch. The pajama party was a success, she offered. Though several children were disappointed the tablet man didn't show. Warren felt an unfamiliar pang of regret. I was in Tokyo. Buying another company to add to your collection. Something like that. Olivia studied him. You don't seem particularly thrilled about it. Warren considered deflecting as he always did when conversations turned personal. Instead, he heard himself say, Have you ever achieved everything you thought you wanted, only to realize you've been pursuing the wrong things? Olivia's expression softened. Is that what's happened? I don't know. The admission felt like weakness, yet saying it aloud brought unexpected relief. Well, she said gently, figuring that out sounds more important than whatever meetings you're missing today. Warren looked at her with surprise. How did you know I cleared my schedule? The Warren Hayes I've met doesn't do impromptu lakeside walks at 9 on a Wednesday, she replied simply. Later that morning, Warren found himself in a small diner Olivia had recommended away from his usual carefully curated spaces. The simplicity was oddly comforting. His phone rang. Julian, for the third time. With uncharacteristic decisiveness, Warren turned off his phone completely. As he sipped mediocre coffee, Warren's thoughts kept returning to Olivia. Their conversations. Her work with children who faced impossible challenges with courage. Her life built around meaning rather than accumulation. He was still sitting there when his chest began to tighten. The sensation was unfamiliar, frightening. Pain radiated down his left arm. Sir? Are you okay? The waitress's voice seemed distant. Warren tried to respond, but darkness edged his vision. The last thing he remembered was the clatter of his coffee, cup hitting the floor. He awoke to the steady beep of monitors and the antiseptic smell of a hospital room. Panic surged until a familiar voice said, "The mighty Warren Hayes, felled by a panic attack that mimicked heart attack symptoms. Your assistant is having kittens in the waiting room." Olivia stood beside his bed, concern evident beneath her attempted lightness. "How?" Warren managed. "The diner called an ambulance. You had my business card in your wallet," she explained. "They found my number when they couldn't unlock your phone." Warren closed his eyes, humiliation washing over him. Spectacular. The doctor says it was likely triggered by exhaustion, stress, and probably years of neglecting your actual human needs, Olivia continued. Apparently, even billionaires require sleep and occasional emotional processing. Despite everything, Warren felt a laugh escape him. Is mockery part of the standard treatment plan? Only for patients with severe cases of stubborn self-sufficiency, she replied. But then her expression grew serious. You scared me, Warren. The simple admission that she cared enough to be frightened for him struck Warren with unexpected force. When was the last time anyone had worried about him? Not his money or influence. I'd offer to pay for your emotional distress, but something tells me you'd throw my checkbook out the window, he said, deflecting with humor to mask the sudden vulnerability he felt. Olivia's gaze held his. Some things can't be bought or sold, Warren. That's what makes them valuable. For the first time in his adult life, Warren Hayes had no strategies, no calculated responses, no carefully maintained distance. There was only the truth that this woman who expected nothing from him had somehow become the person he most wanted to see when his defenses finally crumbled. The precipice. The 2 weeks following Warren's hospital stay marked the strangest period of his adult life. Against his doctor's advice, and Julian's visible horror, he returned to work immediately. But something fundamental had shifted. Investment. Meetings that once consumed him now felt like performances. Acquisitions that would have thrilled him left him questioning their purpose. And throughout it all, thoughts of Olivia Bennett intruded with increasing frequency. They'd fallen into an unexpected pattern, evening walks along the lakefront, occasional dinners where conversation flowed with surprising ease. Warren found himself sharing stories he'd told no one, about his father's bitter disappointments, his mother's eventual retreat into alcoholism, his own determination to build something that couldn't be taken from him. Olivia listened without judgment, offering neither pity nor platitudes. She shared her own history in return. Growing up in a small Pennsylvania town, losing her sister to childhood cancer, finding purpose in helping children face similar battles. That's why you became a child life specialist, Warren realized during one such conversation. Because of your sister. Partly, Olivia acknowledged. But also because I learned early that what matters isn't how long a life is, but how fully it's lived. The statement lingered with Warren, undermining the foundations of everything he'd built. On a rainy Thursday evening, Warren found himself at Olivia's modest apartment for the first time, having offered to drop off materials for a patient when her car wouldn't start. The space was small but warm, filled with books, plants, and photographs, evidence of a life rich in connections, rather than possessions. Tea? She offered, moving comfortably around her kitchen. Please. Warren noticed a framed photo on her bookshelf, a young Olivia with an even younger girl, both grinning widely. Is that your sister? Olivia glanced over. Yes, Jessica. She was 8 there, about 6 months before her diagnosis. Warren studied the image. You look happy. We were, Olivia said simply, bringing 2 mugs to the small living room. Even after she got sick, we had moments of real joy. That's what I try to create for my patients, space for joy even in difficult circumstances. Warren sat beside her on the worn sofa, acutely aware of their proximity. I admire that. Do you have joy, Warren? She asked quietly. The question caught him off guard. I have satisfaction. Achievement. That's not what I asked. Warren considered the billions in his accounts, the companies bearing his influence, the global recognition of his name. None of it answered her question. I don't know that I would recognize joy if I experienced it, he admitted finally. Olivia's eyes held his, something unspoken passing between them. Slowly, deliberately, she set down her mug and moved closer. Maybe it's time you learned, she whispered. The kiss began gently, a question rather than a demand. Warren's response was immediate, years of carefully maintained control dissolving, as he pulled her closer. For precious moments, there was only sensation and connection, a glimpse of something he'd denied himself for decades. Then reality crashed back. Warren pulled away abruptly, standing with such force that tea spilled across the coffee table. This is a mistake, he said, voice rough. Hurt flashed across Olivia's face before she composed herself. Why? Because this isn't who I am. Warren ran a hand through his hair. I don't do relationships, Olivia. I don't build futures with people. That's never been part of my design. Your design? Olivia stood now, too. You talk about yourself like you're one of your tech acquisitions, a system to be optimized rather than a person to be known. You don't understand what I've built, what I have to protect. I understand perfectly, she countered. You've constructed this fortress around yourself, convinced it's keeping you safe. But I've seen inside, Warren. You're not protected. You're isolated. Her words struck with terrible accuracy. That's a choice I made long ago. Then make a different choice now, she challenged, her eyes bright with emotion. Because whatever you think you're protecting yourself from, it's already happening. You care. About me. About the children at the hospital. About something beyond. Your next acquisition. The truth of it terrified him. Caring meant vulnerability. Vulnerability led to devastation. He'd witnessed that pattern his entire childhood. I should go, Warren said, retreating toward the door. If you walk out now, Olivia said quietly, you're choosing fear over possibility. Is that really the empire? You want to keep building? Warren paused, his hand on the doorknob. For a suspended moment, he almost turned back. Goodbye, Olivia. The door closed behind him with devastating finality. In the weeks that followed, Warren threw himself into work with renewed intensity. He expanded his Asian markets, launched a new tech platform, added 3 companies to his portfolio. On paper, Warren Hayes was more successful than ever, and he had never felt more hollow. He avoided Northwestern Memorial, redirecting all endowment matters through his foundation. He ignored the concerned glances from Julian, the suggestions from his executive team that he seemed distracted. He built higher walls, worked longer hours, and told himself it was for the best. Until the night he stood alone in his penthouse overlooking the city lights, drink in hand, and realized with stark clarity that he had everything and nothing at all. Redefined foundations on. A brilliant October morning, Warren sat in his parked car outside Northwestern Memorial Hospital, hands gripping the steering wheel. 3 months had passed since he'd walked away from Olivia's apartment. 3 months of accomplishments that felt meaningless, of success that tasted like ash. Julian had finally confronted him last week. Sir, with all due respect, you've been unbearable since whatever happened with Ms. Bennett. Either fix it or accept that you'll be brilliantly successful and thoroughly miserable for the remainder of your days. It was the closest his assistant had ever come to insubordination. It was also entirely accurate. Warren had spent his life accumulating power to ensure he would never be vulnerable, never be left, never be disappointed like his father had been. The irony was excruciating. In avoiding his father's romantic disasters, he'd perfected his father's emotional absence. With sudden resolve, Warren exited the car and strode into the hospital. The pediatric floor was vibrant with autumn decorations, paper, leaves, and smiling pumpkins lining the hallways. He followed the sound of laughter to the playroom. He stopped in the doorway, breath catching. Olivia sat surrounded by children in various stages of treatment, reading a story with different voices for each character. Her copper hair was shorter now, falling just below her shoulders. She hadn't seen him yet. A small girl attached to an IV pole noticed him first. "Are you the tablet man?" she asked loudly. Conversation halted. Olivia looked up, her story forgotten as their eyes met. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, hurt, wariness. "I believe I am," Warren answered the child, stepping into the room. Though I'm hoping to be known for more than just tablets, the children bombarded him with questions. Did he really have a helicopter? Could he buy the hospital a swimming pool? Was his house as big as the whole hospital? Warren answered each one genuinely, aware of Olivia watching him interact with her patients. When the children returned to their rooms for lunch, Olivia approached him cautiously. "This is unexpected," she said, echoing their chance meeting months ago. "I needed to see you," Warren replied simply. Olivia crossed her arms. "Why now?" "Because I finally understood what you were trying to tell me." Warren took a deep breath. "I've spent my life building a fortress to protect myself from becoming my father. But in doing so, I became something worse. Someone incapable of the one thing that gives life meaning." "And what's that?" Olivia asked quietly. "Connection," Warren answered. "Real, honest connection with another person." Olivia's expression remained guarded. "What changed?" "I did." Warren moved closer. "Or rather, you changed me. You showed me that what I thought was strength was actually fear. That what I thought was independence was isolation." "Warren, please," he interrupted gently. "Let me finish. I've spent 3 months trying to convince myself I was better off alone. 3 months achieving everything I thought I wanted and feeling nothing. Because the truth is, none of it matters without someone to share it with." Olivia studied him, her expression softening slightly. "That's a significant revelation for a man who once told me entanglements complicate objectives." "My objectives have changed," Warren said simply. "Or perhaps they've finally become clear." "And what are they now?" Warren took her hand, half expecting her to pull away. She didn't. "To build something real," he answered. "Something that can't be measured in acquisitions or valuations. Something based on trust rather than transactions." He paused. "I want to build a life that includes you, Olivia. If you'll give me another chance." Vulnerability had never come naturally to Warren Hayes. Standing before Olivia now, his defenses dismantled, he felt both terrified and strangely free. "You hurt me," she said quietly. "I know. I was protecting myself from feelings I didn't know how to handle." "And now?" "Now I'm willing to learn," Warren said. "I can't promise I'll be perfect at this, but I can promise I'll never walk away again." Olivia was quiet for a long moment. "There's something you should see." She led him down the hall to a newly renovated wing. A plaque beside the entrance read, "The Jessica Bennett Play Therapy Center," named for her sister. "The endowment you created," Olivia explained. "This is what it built. Even when you were running away, you were helping children heal through play." Warren stared at the plaque, then at Olivia. "I didn't know, because you didn't stick around to see what you helped create," she said, but her tone was gentle. "That's been your pattern, Warren. Creating things but never connecting with them." "I want to change that pattern," he said, taking both her hands in his. "Starting now," Olivia's eyes searched his. "This won't be simple. I'm not interested in being someone's project or redemption story." "Good," Warren replied, "because I'm not interested in solutions or acquisitions. I'm interested in you, Olivia Bennett, the woman who wasn't impressed by my billions, the woman who challenges me to be better." The woman who showed me what real strength looks like? A small smile finally curved Olivia's lips. That speech sounds practiced. I may have rehearsed in front of Julian, Warren admitted. He gave me notes. Olivia laughed, the sound breaking the last of the tension between them. Your poor assistant. He's getting a significant bonus, Warren assured her, then grew serious. Again. I can't change my past, Olivia, but I can choose a different future. One where walls become bridges. One where success is measured in moments of connection rather than zeros in an account. That's quite a pivot for a tech billionaire, she observed. I've always been good at recognizing valuable opportunities, Warren replied, drawing her closer. And you, Olivia Bennett, are the most valuable opportunity I've ever encountered. This time when they kissed, Warren didn't pull away. Instead, he leaned into the vulnerability, the uncertainty, the promise of something he'd never allowed himself to imagine, a future built not on isolation, but on connection, not on fear, but on possibility. And for the first time in his adult life, Warren Hayes recognized joy.